What's up everyone, I'm Eldritch and we're taking a look at World of Warships. Today we're going to take a look at the brand new Tier 5 Russian destroyer that came with the pre-order bundles, Gremyashchiy, a Gnevny class destroyer. First we'll talk a little bit about the history. The Gnevny class destroyer was built between 1935 and 1942. The designs were based on a cooperation between Soviet Russia and Italy. Originally, the Gremyashchiy was part of the Baltic Fleet, but it got transferred to the Northern Fleet in 1941. The Northern Fleet supported the maritime flank of the 14th Army, providing cover from sea, river, and even participating in land battles such as the Moscow, Leningrad, Stalingrad, and North Caucasus campaign. The Gremyashchiy, like many other obsolete Soviet ships from that time, met its end in 1957 during nuclear testing. In World of Warships, the Gremyashchiy occupies a nice middle ground between the Japanese and American destroyers. As examples, I will take the Minikaze and the Nicholas, which are also both at Tier 5. The Gremyashchiy, with 13,800 hit points, has more hit points than both the American and Japanese destroyers. But it does have a lot more hit points than the Minikaze. Armor, just like with any other destroyer, is practically irrelevant. You're never going to survive based on your armor. The torpedoes are very interesting. They are pretty much exactly in the middle between how Japanese and American torpedoes work. The Minikaze has a much better reload at Tier 5, it has a much better range, and the torpedoes are quite a bit faster, but the damage is exactly the same between the Gremyashchiy and the Minikaze. The Nicholas has terrible torpedoes, like pretty much all low-tier American destroyers. The reload is exactly the same as the Gremyashchiy. The range is much better on the Gremyashchiy. It does more damage than the Nicholas's torpedoes, and the torpedoes move at the same speed as the Nicholas torpedoes. So you can see the torpedoes are better than they are on the Americans, but slightly worse than they are on the Japanese. When it comes to maneuverability, once again the Gremyashchiy is pretty much exactly in the middle. It's slightly more maneuverable than the Minikaze, but less maneuverable than the Nicholas. However, in concealment, the Gremyashchiy definitely loses out. It is worse than both the Minikaze and the Nicholas. And the concealment is probably one of the biggest drawbacks of the Gremyashchiy. But now let's talk about the biggest strengths of the Gremyashchiy. The Gremyashchiy has amazing anti-aircraft batteries for not just a Tier 5 destroyer, but really any destroyer. It has 76mm guns, 25mm guns, and a healthy amount of 13mm machine guns. And as such, hunting down aircraft, which are generally incapable of hurting you in a destroyer, is a really good thing to do when you don't have anything better to do at the moment. The biggest strength of the Gremyashchiy, however, is definitely in its guns. It does suffer from a slower turret traverse than the average American destroyer, but let's not kid ourselves, that's not a new thing. The American turret traverse is legendary on all its ships. However, the turret traverse is slightly better than it is on the Japanese destroyers, which makes them at least playable. However, when it comes to DPM and range, the Minikaze and the Nicholas have nothing on the Gremyashchiy. The Gremyashchiy has a 12-kilometer gun range. That is legendary for a destroyer at that tier. In fact, and you will see this during the gameplay later, at many points within the games I played, I realized if I was firing at cruisers or battleships from 12 kilometers range, they would not be able to spot me. Even though you lose a lot of your concealment while firing, apparently the Gremyashchiy can still be undetectable while firing when it is at maximum range, which is a huge deal, and you will see that in one of the replays as I rack up amazing numbers of damage without anyone ever being able to shoot back at me. DPM wise, the Gremyashchiy is amazing. It has almost double the DPM of the Minikaze, and it still has a healthy 25 to 30% more DPM than the Nicholas. Of course, DPM on destroyers is never really that good, but in the case of the Gremyashchiy, you can do some real good with your guns, which is important because it has a long reload in its torpedoes. So between firing your torpedoes, you have to do something. And in the Gremyashchiy, you can actually do it. You have good guns, so you can actually engage ships at very long ranges without them detecting you, or even at slightly shorter ranges, you can engage enemy ships without them really being able to kill you because you're just so maneuverable and hard to hit. The accuracy, however, suffers a little bit. The Gremyashchiy is far less accurate than the Minikaze and just slightly less accurate than the Nicholas. However, with the Gremyashchiy's amazing rate of fire, this really isn't that much of a problem. All in all, the Gremyashchiy is a very, very healthy Tier 5 destroyer and can easily keep up with the Minikaze and the Nicholas in overall performance just because it makes up its weaknesses with really, really amazing strengths. One might even argue that the Gremyashchiy might be a little bit too good for a premium ship. If it was a regular researchable ship, I wouldn't complain at all. I think it would be totally fine, but for a premium ship, it might just be a tiny little bit too good. However, I haven't played that many games in it yet. The games I have played were very successful, but it is way too early at this point to decide whether or not it's overpowered or underpowered, because I haven't really played that many games, and I don't think anyone else has played that many games. Despite there being quite a few gameplay videos on YouTube already, remember these ships came out yesterday. People have just been rushing to get something out. Right, but that's enough talk. Let's take a look at the games I played. This is the third game I played in the Gremyashchiy, and I skipped ahead just a little bit, because, well, the beginning is always just driving around. And it's a Tier 6 battle. We have a Fuso and 2 Clevelands. They have a Fuso and 2 Clevelands. However, they do have a Saipan, whereas we only have an Independence as our aircraft carriers. And I do think that right now in World of Warships, that's probably the biggest problem, is that when one side has a higher tier aircraft carrier than the other, then they just have an intrinsic advantage because of how fighter aircraft work. With torpedo bombers and bombers, you still need a certain amount of skill to be able to hit your torpedoes or bombs accurately and reliably. But with fighters, it's really just right-clicking on an enemy squadron, and then the fighters just do their thing. So that just means raw stats win, and whoever has the better fighters is going to win out in a attrition war. And even having 2 fighter squadrons might not be enough to take out one better fighter squadron. And Independence to Saipan is probably the best example of this, because the Saipan is the first aircraft carrier where you get non-biplane aircraft. And the Brewster Buffaloes that the Saipan carries into battle are just outright and very, very much better than the biplanes that the Independence has. Anyway, at the beginning of the game I decided to go across our front line to scout anything that came close, and I spotted this poor ass little destroyer who was doing the same thing. And then we just let him have it and take him apart. He just didn't stand a chance. I was too close to for the smoke to work, and he still kept pulling toward us. He should have turned toward the other side and, you know, went toward his capture point, because the way he was driving, the smoke wasn't really doing all that much for him, and I was too close and kept spotting him. So he's out of the game right away. That's a bit of advice for other destroyer captains. You should not do what that guy did. If you get spotted like that, then pop your smoke and turn around and go away from the enemy, because then you put the smoke between you and the enemy, and it gets harder for them to spot you. I also decided to pop my smoke because I want to provide my team a little bit of cover from those 2 battleships in the south. And then I decided to go over to the east flank, where pretty much the entire enemy team has snuck up and is now broadsiding the western part of our fleet. At this point, I'm already kind of thinking that we might end up losing this game, because we have basically split up. Most of their team is now in the east, and they're supporting each other. They're, you know, combining their fire. And we have, with me, 5 ships that are moving toward the east, most of which aren't even in range yet. And then we have the rest of our team just sort of sitting in the west and south and still trying to push there, or just, yeah, sitting around and maintaining range and trading shots with those battleships. It's not really going to work out for them. this was also the first game where I realized how good the guns in the Gremyashchiy are. I saw this guy in front of me taking shots at this guy 11 kilometers away, and then I aimed at him and saw, wow, yeah, the target marker is popping up. I have 12 kilometers range. That's crazy. And so I start shooting at this Phoenix, and it takes me two salvos to range in, but once I do, I pretty much hit at least half the shots of every salvo I fire, and to me that was pretty amazing. I thought, wow, this is actually a really good set of guns on this thing. And I mean, don't get me wrong, 370 is, you know, not amazing, but I'm setting this guy on fire. I'm dealing critical hits to him, and I'm just whittling him down. However, I do decide to switch fire to this destroyer because he is so close that he's going to be spotting me, and I would like him to go away again. Take out one of his guns, then I take out his steering. He loosed some torpedoes, but yeah, he's an American destroyer and they immediately vanish. This is actually kind of a problem on this map, I found. This map is very hostile toward destroyers. It's very difficult to get close enough to actually use your torpedoes, and without torpedoes, destroyers are just kind of bad. So I'm still not too sure if this map, if I approve of this map being sort of a standard in the rotation. I get it, it's realistic, but I find it a little bit questionable because it is so incredibly anti of one ship type. Anyway, I found a new target, again over 10 kilometers away, and I can reliably barrage him, which is pretty fantastic. This really was the game that opened my eyes to how good the guns are, and how much more I should definitely use them. And it wasn't in this game that I figured out that people weren't actually seeing me. Like, this Phoenix he doesn't see me. At least I don't think he does. Because even after the other guy is way out of range, they still don't start shooting at me. They only start shooting at me once he comes within 9 kilometers and I fire another salvo. See, now he's firing at me. And now the other guy is gonna open up as well. And the battleship is also in spotting range, so I'm spotted now. But I wasn't spotted before, and yeah, I didn't realize it. But next game, you will see that I get pounded on by all three of these guys and lose most of my hit points here. I mean, I'm really just lucky that I'm not dead already. Like, the Gremyashchiy has 13,000 hit points, which is decent, but you can still get one-shotted by battleships, and I really do have to count my lucky stars that I didn't end up biting the dust. Here I definitely made a mistake, by the way. Early in the game, a squad of aircraft passed me by, and I didn't want them to spot me, so I turned off my anti-aircraft guns, and I never reactivated them for the entire game. So here I was in a situation where I could have actually done some damage to one of the enemy squadrons, and didn't do it. I could have also shot down that scout plane, because I shivered pretty much right underneath it. I decided to go back and help our carrier against this destroyer who's hounding him. But I just can't hit him. That other guy, that destroyer is evading my shots pretty spectacularly. Also, my aim is kind of rubbish. It was late at night. I was trying. I really wanted to try out the Gremyashchiy yesterday, so I played very, very late into the night. But I already basically got exactly what I wanted. I protected our carrier because this destroyer is now engaging me. I'm dealing some damage to him, and right now I'm basically just keeping course, because I'm sure that he's not going to kill me within, you know, 2 or 3 salvos. And I just really want him to keep course so that my torpedoes hit him. So I just keep driving and keep shooting at him, you know, keep making it relatively easy for him. And it pays off, because now... Boom. Oh, yeah. And another one. And that's it for him. Now, I look up at the scores and I'm like, oh, yep, this is so very much over. And sure enough, we're not going to win this game. Not a particularly amazing performance by me either. I really just wanted to highlight how good the guns are on this boat, because it's something that is very unique, I find, amongst the destroyers. Usually they are just way behind with their guns in every tier, and this ship is just decent all around with its guns. So I found that very exciting and very fun to play. And it still has the maneuverability to dodge most of the incoming fire, which is pretty excellent. But of course, you know, getting shot from 3 sides isn't really helping. Optimistic as I am, I popped another smoke barrier and I'm dropping some more torpedoes, but obviously this game is very much over, and yeah, my days are numbered. That was my last ally who just exploded, and I'm gonna be next. So let's skip the terrible tragedy and look at the stats. As you can see, even though it was a defeat, and even though my stats aren't all that fantastic in this match, I still made 111,000 credits, and that's without a premium account. So that is really, really good. So to anyone who was wondering if premium ships are worth it, oh, yes, they are worth it. And here we are back with the last game I played yesterday. And in this one I was definitely aware of the guns and was basically pushing it as far as it would go. I wanted to see how good are the guns actually, how good is it to just even focus on the guns instead of, you know, trying to just sneak in for the torpedoes. And so I decided to pretty much aggressively rush forward to get into a firing position as early as possible, and to then slowly pull back and keep the enemy in my firing range and see if it really is the case that I can be invisible and still shoot them. And I see this guy presenting himself at 10 kilometers, but I decide that he's heading for me and I'm heading for him, so he's probably actually already going to spot me when I start shooting. And so I decide to not shoot and just pull back a little bit. Then, however, I spot this destroyer, and I'm immediately aware that now I am spotted as well. And yep, there they go. The destroyer and the battleship started shooting at me, and I'm slightly switching up my plan. Putting that big island in between me and the cruiser as well as the battleship, I start opening up on the destroyer, and lo and behold, yep, you can do a ton of damage to other destroyers with this little awesome Russian thing. Look at the damage I'm doing to this guy. I already set him on fire and he repaired, and so everything I'm doing now is going to stick. Taking some fire from the cruiser that he's protecting with his smokescreen. But that's not keeping me from pummeling him with as much firepower as I can muster. But I decide that it's good enough now, and I pop my smoke and retreat a little bit. I mean, I don't want to die right at the beginning of the game. I did some damage to the destroyer. He's going to be a little bit easier to kill now. And I'm really not too worried about any of these torpedoes. A second destroyer appears. A wild destroyer appears. And he uses torpedo blanket, and it's not really all that effective, as the entire team starts opening up on the poor guy. I set him on fire, everyone else does 1,000,000 damage to him. I'm not actually sure if he gets away or not. I think he gets away. But yeah, now that everyone else is engaging as well, I decide it's time to start shooting at people again. So I start shooting at this Cleveland. And when I was playing this game and he lost half his health, I was like, oh my god, what did I just do? But no, it was the battleship, of course. But I did set him on fire. This smoke screen is really giving me a bunch of trouble. I just can't get close enough to shoot, you know, to fire my torpedoes. And there's probably still a destroyer hiding in that smoke screen, so I decided to leg it. And it was a good idea because the Cleveland decided to just totally go for it and rushes toward me. Knocks out my steering, which is definitely not a good thing. I launch my torpedoes and he starts pummeling me. There's not a whole lot I can do at this point. I mean, now he just destroyed my engine and I'm pretty much dead in the water. I just have to hope that he keeps his course, and yep, he does. Thank you. First kill. But I'm worried at this point, because my engine is destroyed. And I mean, look at me. I'm making very worrying sounds, and I can't really move. And I have another 12 seconds to repair. Is that even if I'm going to die here, I'm gonna take this stupid little destroyer with me, and I do. Blowing up his torpedo tubes. I get to repair and start moving again without anyone really hassling me. Counting my lucky stars, I turn around and run for the hills. I mean, at this point, it's just me and this battleship, and the two of us are not really going to win against two battleships and a cruiser, so I'm just gonna go away. I once again decide to turn off my anti-aircraft because I'm definitely not spotted at the moment and I would like it to remain that way. And so I just pass the scout plane and ignore it. But I'm getting in the right distance now to start shooting at them without them spotting me. And so I'm gonna start bearing my guns to see if I can maybe get some shots off before the island is in the way. But it doesn't look like that's gonna be happening. So I decided to just pull around the island instead and then let him have it. Surprisingly, our battleship isn't destroyed yet. So I'm thinking I could actually help this guy out a bit and pop my smoke and see if that helps him get away from these guys. I mean, they're trying their best to kill him, but there is quite the distance between them, so it's going to be hard for them to reliably hit this guy. At this point, I was more worried about maybe, hopefully, protecting my friend and helping him get away, and I wasn't really focusing too much on firing. I should have probably fired on the battleship, though. That would have been the right thing to do. I was also cursing a bit at this guy because I'm popping smoke and he's turning away from the smoke. Dude, what are you doing? Hide behind the smoke. Go away. Probably should have said something in the chat, but I was also trying not to get shot, you know, to look around. Game's still new and still definitely learning, trying to get better. But it looks like it's worked. They're not shooting at him anymore, and I seem to have saved him with my little cloud. So happy about my great supportive team play. I direct my attentions toward this destroyer who's very... well, he's basically throwing caution to the wind here and just moves away from the battleships. And I put down a torpedo carpet and start firing at him. I mean, at this point he spotted me. I knock out his torpedoes, which is a good start. Can't really see him. Oh, and as it turns out, the battleship actually hit him, and well, I'm gonna take that kill. Sorry, battleship guy, but I'm a dirty little destroyer. Yep, thank you very much. Now to deal with this destroyer. He just launched torpedoes. I don't know if you saw that, but you can always see when they launch torpedoes. Even if you don't spot the torpedoes, you can see the ripples going into the water. So that's something you should look out for when you're this close to an enemy destroyer. I knock out his torpedoes and his engine. And this is absolutely why I use high explosive against destroyers, because, well, he's slowing down. It's much more easy to hit him now. He can't really use his torpedoes anymore. And there he goes, the engine goes again, so... At this point it gets really, really easy for me and this battleship to just take him out. As you can probably see at the video timer, this was a long game. Which I guess is kind of a spoiler, because it means that this capture is not going to be successful. As you can see, the capping guy was just hit. Seeing this and being pretty sure that he's not going to capture, I'm thinking about how to best approach this, because I'm still just a destroyer, you know, and there's two battleships, but there's also the aircraft carrier who relatively foolishly decided to speed down this flank and is now kind of cut off from the rest of his forces. And so I decided to engage him instead. Always keeping an eye on those two battleships, seeing what they're doing. Firing at the island because not really paying attention. Whoops. And then moving around the island and closing the distance. Set him on fire, which is good, but sadly he was able to repair and send his bomber squadron out again. And I didn't pay attention, which means the battleship just smashed me in the side for way more than half my health. But let's be honest, I mean, I'm lucky to still be alive. I mean, I just got hit by a battleship, so can't really complain about that one. And yeah, this guy just ran aground. It's too bad for him. Kind of an overkill to fire the torpedoes. Thinking about it now, I probably should've just kept firing at him, because then he explodes, and so much for my torpedoes. But I mean, I'm not really in range of anything else anyway. And he might have been dead, but he still ordered his bombers to bomb me. Good thing they didn't really hit me all that much. And good thing I still had my response crew ready. Honestly though, at this point it can still go either way. I mean, they have two battleships, we have one. We have me and two aircraft carriers. And yeah, I mean, their battleships are still... They're not exactly healthy, but they still have enough health to at least win a firefight with me, so we're gonna have to go at this a lot more careful. And one of our aircraft carriers is way out of position, And the enemy destroyer takes advantage of this, and, well, yeah, there are the torpedoes. He's not going to be able to dodge that one. Gone is he. Nice forward position where he could have done some more good with his aircraft, but what are you going to do? Like, it's a destroyer. They're designed to kill carriers and battleships, so it's to be expected. Now I'm pretty confident that I'm still stealthed at this point, although this guy's shooting at me, and I'm kind of worried, thinking, why am I spotted? Who is spotting me? I didn't really have a good answer for this. I mean, maybe he just was shooting out of frustration. Maybe he wasn't actually shooting at me. I don't really know, but I decided to pop smoke and make a little semicircle. I was thinking about firing at the battleship, but my turrets weren't aligned yet, and firing torpedoes seems to be also seemed a bit. I mean, I'm not going to hit him. If I fire torpedoes at him now, I'm not going to hit him. So I decided to turn around, run at it from the other side, you know, shorten the distance the torpedoes are going to have to take. That'll at least increase my chances to hit him. I don't want to get too much, you know, too close to him, because I'm at 1,000 hit points. Even his secondary batteries can take me out easily at this point. And so I lay down my torpedoes, I lay down a secondary spread in case he slows down or takes a left, takes a right. And then I start shooting at him, because I'm thinking he might still be reloading. At least I'm hoping he's still reloading. If he's not reloading, then that's bad. But I get some good damage into him. And I see his guns are trained at me. But luckily everything misses. Put some more shots into him. And then I safely made it behind the island. And I was thinking of going around and putting some torpedoes into him, but looking at the map, I saw that he's actually turning away from me. He's just, you know, putting distance between myself and him. And going around would definitely be bad, so I decided to just not do it and just see what he's going to do, because since he's turned around now, it's going to take him a while to you know, do a full 180 turn, and I can basically just cap it out, or at least attempt to, because me sitting in the cap pretty much means he has to do a 180 and come back. He can't go for the aircraft carrier. And he's still going. The longer he takes, the less likely he is to actually make it back in time. Now he starts turning. And I decide to fire a few shots, which was rather ill-advised, because, yep, there he goes, he fires at me. But misses by a mile. But I'm cocky at this point. I'm feeling like, oh, this is an amazing game and we've got this in the bag, and I'm just chippering around, and he fires at me and I'm like, oh my god, oh no, woohoo, lucky me. Anyway, as he still tries to turn, I just drive circles in the cap circle. Now I see him on the map heading towards that little pass between those two islands. And I'm thinking I'm just going to cap it out at this point. I mean, I could of course try and kill him, but again, I'm so low health. Anything from his secondary batteries could blow me up, and then we might just lose the game, so why would I risk that? I decided to slow down and just put the island between me and him. And as he comes closer, I put in some speed again. And just go forward to keep the island between me and him. And that's pretty much all she wrote, and he's not going to be able to get around the island in time. And that's GG. Nothing he can do. And as you can see, I made 187,000 credits. 2,000 experience. Easily top of the team. And it's just so much money. And look at this, 18,316 damage with just the guns. I mean, those are stats that you can get with torpedoes and be relatively happy in a destroyer, but with just the guns, that's pretty amazing. So yeah, I'm really excited about this destroyer because strong guns. So guys, that's the brand new Gremyashchiy. I really like this destroyer. I think it's really fun to play. It's quite different from the already existing tier 5 destroyers, and it makes a friggin' butt ton of money and experience. And let's be honest, that's what everyone gets premium ships and tanks for, right? Stay tuned for more World of Warships videos. I will also upload preliminary reviews on the Sims, Yubari, Kitakami, and Murmansk in the next couple of days, so keep an eye on the channel. Consider liking and subscribing, and if you have any feedback, as always, let me know in the comments. I have been Eldritch Master Donkey, and destroyer very good for Mamushka.